Blake, what the heck were they thinking?
That's the thing, Toby. They weren't thinking.
Welcome to the Church Gear Podcast, where we pull the tech out of the booth and onto the stage to share the most outlandish stories and hidden wisdom from the tech trenches. And now, here are your hosts.
I'm your host, Blake Hodges, a man who has never thought a day in my life. And I'm here with my co-host, who is thoughtless, Toby Walters.
Thoughtless. See, now that you said that, like all the thoughts have gone out of my head. I'm an empty vessel, Blake.
And I came up with that on the fly because we had to change our intro because it was so inappropriate.
You told me, if you tell me something is inappropriate, then I know that I have gone to the dark side.
You're about to go straight if you don't change it.
But today we want to talk about my book, I guess. Let's put the spotlight back on me, Blake.
Yes, let's get the heat off of me. I'm still trying to get my ticket punched.
I'm an A-host, and A-hosts apparently write books. But so
the B-host then is going to write one day to just be a picture book.
Yeah.
That way it's not the pain that you've
I want
experienced.
a pop-up book. That would be awesome.
Pop-up. I was going to say pop-up for a B-host, but that's a P, not a B.
Yeah, I know. Words are hard for you.
Take it from me.
But yes, if you've been listening recently, we're talking about, we're highlighting different chapters of my book, and I wrote a book because we're highlighting it. So if you are interested in buying the book or pre-ordering the book, you can go to tobywalters.com or churchgear.com/TobyWalters. You can find it either place.
And this book is about how to microwave popcorn, which is a skill Toby never learned until recently.
No,
and
because I don't know how to microwave popcorn. So instead, I wrote about something I don't know even more about, which is church production. But thankfully, we have so many friends and experts in that space that I just stole all their stories and then retold them in my book so that we can talk about it.
You're a really good gatherer, Toby.
Yes.
My dad always said a blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then. You're blind. You don't know anything. But you're really good at assimilating or assembling. I can't even burn you well.
I know.
All of it,
Wow.
the tidbits of knowledge. I realized my analogy was going to sound weird if we played that out to completion.
Yeah. And also, I'm an Enneagram 7, so I'm often described as a squirrel. So that works too.
But this squirrel, it runs around so much, it gives you your energy to gather all of these lessons about church production in your book.
All right, so let's talk about the topic we're going to focus on today, which is volunteers. Recruiting and training volunteers. And Blake, you volunteer in the youth ministry at church, which is really what I was referring to as to what were they thinking, giving you moldable minds to lead and disciple.
Yeah, and with no training really. They say they do these trainings. It's like little lunch hours.
Yeah.
No one tells you, like, what do you do when a 15-year-old says some of the most ludicrous things they've ever said in their life? Or they'll ask you these deep theological questions. If you want to feel the presence of the Holy Spirit, serve in youth ministry, because that's the only way you'll have any answers. You truly have to depend.
Yeah.
This is getting too real for our silly podcast, but
I know.
Yeah, that's what youth ministry is like.
I mean, I did youth ministry for a season myself and got the heck out of there as quickly as I could.
Have we told people on the podcast that someone said, one of the kids said to you, you don't care about us. You're just doing this for the money.
For the money, yeah.
You've never seen a salary range of a youth pastor, clearly.
That's right. But I don't know about you, Blake. Do you remember the very first moment that you volunteered at church?
I do, because my kids were like, little tiny kids. And now, the very first time?
Yeah.
Well, that would still be the case because I had fourth graders then. So, it was like, it made me feel like an adult.
Okay.
Even though I was only in 11th grade.
And my first time, as I've talked about many times, was when my dad was a music director at my church growing up. And when I was 13 years old, I think, partially to keep me from burning the church down. And also because somebody needed to do it. Toby, do you want to run the sound system at church? And so that was my entry into church volunteering.
A simpler solution would have been to just take the matches out of your hands. But instead they said, take those matches to the front of house.
Yes. And if any of our listeners, no matter where you are in the church hierarchy, as far as like staff, if you're a lead pastor, executive pastor, worship leader, production leader, you know that you learn this skill set and you have this calling to bring this skill set to the church, and the church pays you to do it if you're, on the paid staff. And then, by the way, you need to recruit and train volunteers to fill out your team. And it's like, what now? That is a whole different skill. And Blake, I think we've heard that is a gap in production ministry from so many people when we go to like Philo or MXU events. And It's always a struggle.
Recruiting is extremely difficult. One of my favorite facts is in the Civil War in America, you could be a general if you got enough dudes in your town to all say, like, we're going to join and he's going to be like our commanding officer.
Yeah.
Well, basically everyone in church production is forced to be a Civil War general and assemble their posse instead of to take down, the Union or the Confederacy. It's to take down that Sunday service. So.
Yeah. And it's funny because you want to put together an army to take down the Sunday service. And so you're trying to recruit great people, which is hard enough. But then you're also getting in some weirdos. Let's just call it what it is, Blake. Youth ministry over there at Fellowship has a big old weirdo on their staff. And I've definitely had some of those moments where, like, one guy said, I really want to sing. I know that you have a band thing you do on stage. What do you say I stand behind the curtain and you give me a microphone and I'll sing backup vocals behind the curtain?
I don't think we should give anybody a mic off stage. I would love to ask our guest in a minute what's the worst thing she can imagine happening, because I bet it's bad.
Yeah. And so, it's very tricky because you can get some great people, you can get some weirdos, and you got to filter through, and then you got to train them, and you got to make it all work on Sunday. And it's not like the pastor is looking at the weirdo volunteer. They're looking at you. You're the team leader. You're the one who recruited that person.
Civil War general.
Yeah. So, speaking of the opposite of weirdos, I think you should introduce our guest for the day.
Yes, bringing in a three-peat heavy hitter Civil War general coming out of the great state of Texas. Alexa Paige is joining us. Alexa, welcome to the podcast.
Hello. Thanks for having me back again for the third time.
Yeah.
I mean, Alexa was one of the first 10 episodes. So if you've ever wanted to go in the backlog, that is quite the antics to get into.
And I think she's right up there with like Todd Elliott and Tim Foote. But
I mean, what she said before the episode got started was enough for me to say she's already the best guest we've ever had.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. Your award is in the mail. Now, with all that great expectation set up, let's get into the episode.
Yeah. So, Alexa, you're an audio engineer at Fellowship Church in Grapevine, Texas. The famous or even infamous Pastor Ed Young with all his amazingly fun and wild ideas. I know you've been on the pod before, but tell us, how did you get yourself into this mess of leading a team of production volunteers there at Fellowship? What's your origin story?
Yeah. I grew up kind of in the industry. My dad still owns a production company in Northern Indiana. And so I did the circuit. I did the festivals. I did, that whole round. And I was pretty young, but got a lot of experience, learned everything I knew from the people that I was interacting with, on a weekend and weekly basis. And then I decided, I guess I should go to college and like get a degree and do those things. And didn't feel like, audio engineering was the path. So I actually went and got a teaching degree. So you're speaking to, youth ministry earlier. That's like, my heart is like with kids. So taught downtown Dallas for a couple of years. But started attending Fellowship Church, and they heard pretty quickly my background and who I'd been with and what I'd done. And they were like, hey, you want to come volunteer? And I was actually super excited to volunteer. I didn't want all the responsibility. I didn't want to do any of that. And so I would volunteer a couple times a week or a couple times a month. At the time it was on a PM1D. And I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And then the Lord was super, super sweet. And I taught through COVID, which was really crazy. And a guy on staff was like, hey, do you, you want a job? And I was like, no, I'm good. I don't want to do any of that. But I don't know. I prayed about it, and the Lord was like, no, this is like, I'm ready for you to step into full-time ministry. So I decided to come on staff, over a summer right before I had to sign my teaching contract. And so now I'm here, been here 3.5 years. And I love it.
Hang on, Alexa.
It's totally different.
The guy that asked if you wanted a job, was that the guy you ended up marrying at the church?
No, no, it's not. But that would have been so good.
That'd have been conflict of interest. This job offer comes with a ring.
know.
Just so people know, Alexa's married to someone else in the tech department on staff. Like, we're not just saying this to be random.
Shout out to Daniel.
Yes.
Shout out to Daniel. Yes. No. So Kevin, who's the like lead audio engineer at Fellowship, offered me a job Yeah. And then very quickly met Daniel. My boss actually set us up. So go back and listen to that episode. We talk about that.
So then also one other question, because you switched sides in the Civil War. Did you say your dad's production company was in Indiana? How did you end up in Texas?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Lord, honestly. And I know that sounds really cheesy, but it's true. I was ready to kind of leave the cornfields. I mean, when I say I grew up in the cornfields, like we grew up in the middle of nowhere.
Alexa just told us she's a child of the corn.
I am. Yes, I am. And I was ready to do something else. And I applied for one job in Texas and I got it. And the principal was great. And so I moved. And I moved within 2 weeks of getting that job and started school.
Amazing.
Yeah.
The Lord is funny
cool.
with his path in our lives.
Yeah, because I can't imagine anything but Alexa living in Texas right now. So
yeah.
So Alexa, we talk a lot in my book about fellowship and how you guys recruit and how you raise up your volunteers. Yeah. So we're kind of teasing our audience with some of that information, also being helpful. So with the just crazy visionary ideas that Pastor Ed comes up with, I assume that you guys need an army of volunteers to put on production a lot of times. How are you recruiting these volunteers? Are you just throwing up a slide pre-service or putting it in the newsletter like churches often do? Or have you guys discovered any unique ways to get volunteers interested in production?
Yeah, I think, so just some context, like our team is run almost exclusively by volunteers. There are 5 of us who are on staff. And they're kind of in some key roles: front of house, our camera director, our producer. I'm kind of our backstage coordinator and audio. And then one person who's in the control room. Literally everybody else, every other camera, every other switcher, they're all volunteers. Our entire stage crew, volunteers. So we heavily rely on volunteers. I think we've found kind of over the years, and I have inherited a lot of this stuff. I think a lot of people before me have learned not what works and what doesn't, but kind of what fits the culture of what we're trying to do here. And so we actually do put a slide in our announcement loop. I would say 1 out of every 100 comes through that, truly. Like it's we put it in there to grab the one. It's not super profitable for us. And by profitable, right? Like people gathering.
Yeah.
But we do that because it is an option. Another way that we recruit volunteers is in our newcomers class, which is kind of our membership class. It's only 1 week. We've gone through some iterations of kind of what that looks like. But we spend a good amount of time talking about serving. And we kind of lay out all of the options for them to serve. You know, in FC Kids, they can serve in the youth movement. They can serve and connect with the coffee and the greeters, or they can serve in creative. And we give them pictures and show them kind of what it looks like to be a part of creative. So we get a lot of volunteers there. We also do this thing called the Golden 5. And we find that people are super excited to serve right after they've heard a message that, you know, is life-giving and challenging them to get involved or challenging them to do something with their faith. And so right after service, we send people out kind of in these little teams. And the whole point is to connect. And so I want to meet as many people as I can in the first 5 minutes right after service lets out. Now, it means I have to say no to a couple of things, right? I have to say no to kind of buttoning up the end of my service, right? I finish it well. You know, house music comes up, we clear the stream, like we finish well, but we're ripping off headsets and walking out pretty quick. And that's kind of a culture that we have said, like, hey, I'd love to answer your question about the next service, but give me 10 minutes. And so we walk out and we go in these little pods and we try to collect as many phone numbers as we can. And my goal is not to get you to serve in production. My goal is to get you serving, period. And I don't care where that is, because we believe so passionately here at Fellowship Church that serving is where you find your community. Yes, go to Bible study classes. Yes, get involved in those those classes and in those small groups. But serving on a Sunday is how you get involved and it's how you find your people. So we kind of take this multifaceted approach. And honestly, the Golden 5 has been kind of where we have seen most of our fruit. of getting those volunteers.
Yeah.
At least their first step in the door.
Blake, I like to think of it as speed dating. Like you're going out there, like teams versus teams, and you're like, all right, we got 5 minutes. Who can get the most phone numbers?
I don't have a joke back to it because that like speed dating at church for volunteers is so ridiculous. I don't have something PG that's more ridiculous than that. That's really fun.
But it also makes me think, Blake, like now you are technically, it's not even inept. Like you're just a technical moron.
Can that be my new title on the website?
Exactly. Technical moron.
Technically a moron.
So if somebody like Alexa is kind of like looking at your skill set and thinking, I don't know where I put you in production, Blake. And you're like, well, I'm really good at meeting strangers. Oh, wait, Blake, you'd be great at the Golden Five. It's like give you the challenge to go out there and like recruit new people. You'd actually be great at that.
People have joked a couple times on the pod of having the extrovert for the production department. I could do that. I could be that for you.
Yep. Because you also have that gift of galvanizing. You like to gather the troops.
Yep. Let's all get together. I don't know what we're doing, but we're getting together.
I mean, it's such.
But we're doing it together.
It's such a foreign idea when we're thinking about production people.
Yeah.
Like I am so guilty of this when I was a worship pastor. I looked for the guy who worked in IT, the guy who was like comfortable with computers, the kind of like socially awkward guy. And I'm like, hey, you want to help out? Find one or two people, men and women, that are the opposite, that are like the extroverts, that are easily distractible, that want to talk to anybody. They've never met a stranger in their life, and say, we need you to help us recruit people for production.
Yeah.
We are going to be in Texas. I don't know if we're saying this publicly. Maybe this might come out after we've been in Texas.
This will come out after, but that's fine.
So we were in Texas, and I'm speaking it into existence. You know, it is Texas, so name it and claim it. We should do a video with Alexa on how to recruit volunteers and like simulate this Golden 5 hour.
Heck yeah.
So what percentage of your volunteers would you say come from that?
Oh,
you said the slide was getting you like 1 out of every 100.
Yeah. Honestly, of our new volunteers in the last 6 months, probably 3/4. I mean, truly a ton. Yes.
Okay. Don't miss that then. That's massive.
Yeah. I just love the forethought of it, that you're right. We've all just heard this message that's very powerful, that's calling us to something. And we are the most fertile ground that we're ever going to be in those 5 minutes right after hearing that message. Like capture us right then. I love it.
Yeah. And I'm not asking people like, are you like get serving in production, right now. What I'm asking is, hey, can we like have a follow-up conversation this week? Like I'd love to text you and get you involved somewhere, right? I often don't even tell them what I do. I'm kind of strategically looking in the atrium for people who maybe are a little more creatively like leaning. But oftentimes I'm just trying to like, hey, what's your name? How did I meet your, where did you come from? How did you find Fellowship Church? Right. Those are some of my like starters. Mm-hmm. And then it's, are you serving anywhere? Oh, no, you're not serving. Oh my gosh, I'd love to get you involved. Like, we really believe that that's important here at Fellowship Church. We'd love to get you in a community serving. Can we talk about it this week? Can I text you this week?
Toby,
and that has been so helpful.
Did I just hear it's okay to profile in church? She's looking for the creatives. She's like, who's wearing an all black shirt and looks a little moody?
Yep.
Or has a little bit crazy hair or a little bit crazy style, right? Yep. Often they're going to be creative bend. Yeah.
Maybe they've got a couple earrings in random places like Toby and they look like a pirate.
That's right.
We have a new employee and he told me he's going to get an ear or a piercing just because he saw it in your face.
As they should,
I can't believe this is happening. That's a real story.
Sucking up to the boss,
It's really happening.
So, Alexa, we talk about several other like creative ways to recruit volunteers, because I think that's the biggest hurdle for most churches, just feeling like, where am I even going to find somebody to like help run cameras or sound or all that stuff? So again, encouragement to get the book and dive into that. So, okay, let's theoretically say now we've got this magical group of willing volunteers. Are you just sticking them wherever, like as far as in the production? Or you're like, okay, you go to the cameras, you go to slides, you go to monitors, or are you trying to figure out where their skills and their desires actually align with a role?
So I'm always going to, I'm going to tell people like, hey, let's give it a tour. That's always my first step. I want you to see all of what we do in production, start to finish. And I want you to tell me what looks interesting. Now, if somebody comes to me and they say, hey, actually, like I shade cameras for ESPN. I'm like, cool, you don't need a tour. Like, I'll show you, but like, I'm going to put you as a shader if you're cool with, like, if that's what you want to do. So I'm always going to put somebody like where they want to be. They should come and enjoy what they're doing. If you're coming and you're dreading it, like, that's not the goal. The goal is that you're in community and you're doing life alongside other people and you're having a good time. And so I want that to be wherever it is. So I often will give people a tour between services, and we show them what actually helps us a lot is we run a couple of things between experiences. So we typically add a song in our second service because Pastor Ed travels to Frisco and back. And so I need a little bit longer time, up top time in our second experience. And so I can give people a tour while the room is actively in use. And I think that piece of it is really cool and something kind of unique that we're able to show, hey, look, this is our, this is our playback operator and our CG operator. This is what they're doing. Here's the camera op and here's what they're doing. Here's what's happening backstage and here's what our script kind of looks like. And I think kind of giving them this, 30,000 foot view of like, here are all the choices. Does anything even remotely sound interesting to you? And if I'll have some people who come back to me and say like, honestly, I just want to help like wherever you need help. Amen. Music to my ears, my favorite thing to hear. And then I can kind of have some more, conversations of like, well, are you technically minded or are you more like logistics and people oriented, right? Because I'm going to put you in two different spots based on kind of how you answer that question. If somebody says like, no, the control room seems really fun. Perfect. I'll send you up there and you can kind of shadow all of those spots and decide what you like the best, or maybe you want to train through all, 4 or 5 spots.
Yeah.
So I really let people drive where they want to be.
Mm-hmm. Have you learned some lessons the hard way as far as like certain personality types don't necessarily fit well? Like maybe you have somebody running lyrics, but they're an extrovert. And so every time somebody walks in the booth, they get distracted and forget to change the slides, like moments like that.
Yeah. I think that there's some learning that happens. We've had recently actually a couple of people join our team who English isn't their first language. And so it's been great to have them on the team. We learned pretty quickly, actually, lyrics were not a great spot for them because they couldn't like keep up as the words were changing. They did a lot better on a camera, right? Because you're following an object, not having to keep up with reading.
Yeah.
So some of those things. We have a position that's actually pretty math-based because you're doing some travel math and some coordinating with campuses. I'm pretty picky about who I put in that spot. I will train anybody once and kind of show them the ropes, but you'll see pretty quick on people's faces, like, oh, that's a lot, or there's a lot happening there. I don't know if I can do that. And I would say our team has gotten to be pretty good judges of within the first couple of times where we know whether you're like trainable and coachable, or if it's just maybe too much to ask. And we need to find a different spot. And I have conversations with people all the time of, hey, I know you tried prompters last week. It didn't go great. I noticed that it didn't go great. I noticed we got behind. I would love for you to observe so-and-so who is like one of our star prompter ops. I think you could be at that level. I'd love to have you come up and observe on Sunday. Would you be willing to do that? And so that's kind of an option to help kind of train and coach people. But I've also had conversations where I say like, hey, I don't think that's a good fit for you. Like, I don't like, do you feel like it's a good fit? Could I show you some other options? And oftentimes if you have that kind of conversation in that light of, hey, I want you on this team, I just don't think this is a good spot. People are like, yeah, I'll go wherever, I'll do whatever you want. And so kind of reframing it and keeping it in that space of, I need you and I want you on this team. I just want to find the right spot for you.
Yeah. Blake, I'm trying to think where you would fit on the production team since you're not good at math and English is not your first language.
Well, when she said that like logistically minded people,
English is not your first language.
I was doing that for you, Toby. Yay, host. When she said there's a logistical people person slot, I was like, ooh, those are literally my Venn diagram crossroads. So apparently I could be on the production team. Alexa, whenever you were looking for your fit on the team, did your husband say your fit would be right here, married to me? This is a good fit. Look, this is our only chance we have to make these jokes. There's no other people married to someone else on the production team.
I think there are. We'll need to find
Jeff
them.
Watkins and his wife no longer work together.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I think that was it.
Yeah. All right, Alexa, so
That's
you've
funny.
recruited your volunteers. You've worked through a process of putting them in the right seat. So in the book, I talk about the next step really before you want to develop their skills, you want to pour into them as a person, as a child of Christ. So how do you, I know like, hey, stand here and run this camera till the end of time. Like you feel like a cog in the machine. How do you guys intentionally just focus on the heart and the human side of things over the role?
Yeah, I think we're a big like vision casting church, right? So I want you to understand why we're doing the things that we're doing. So I think that starts during the week. During the week, all of our team leads send out texts or emails, or some even do phone calls who have like smaller teams. Hey, this is what happened at Fellowship Church this week. Hey, this is what's happening out at Owasso Ranch. We baptized 80 some kids and high schoolers this week. Like, it's not amazing what we get to be a part of on this Sunday. We have this happening and pastors speaking about this. Like, we can't wait to have you. How can we be praying for you? Is how we always kind of wrap up those texts. Like, what can we be praying for this week? And then we keep a pretty intentional list of like, hey, so-and-so is going through this thing. Can you pray for them? And we're able to kind of share those. Our team is pretty, like our staff team is pretty small. And so we know I know most of every volunteer, and same, like most everybody knows everybody else's volunteers. And so, I'll text control room volunteers and say like, hey, like I heard your wife is in the hospital. Like, how are you doing? What can we set up a meal train? So we're pretty involved. And staff members are pretty good about sharing. Hey, so-and-so, needs this thing or has going through this. And so that has been really important. I think we also really encourage our volunteers to make sure that they're involved in some kind of Bible study class or small group. So we actually started, which has been so fun, a creative Bible study group. And so I help lead the women's one, and then Daniel helps lead the men's one. And so we meet, I meet twice a month, Daniel's meets once a month. And we just get together with people who are on the creative team. And it's worship and production, which has been really neat. Because I think oftentimes there's this disconnect, especially between the control room and cameras, which are away from the stage, and those who are on stage. And so it's been really neat. Some of our choir members who have never met the people who are running their lyrics, and they got to meet. And that has been really sweet. So we do a Bible study, and it's kind of come and go. If you can come this month, but you can't come next month, not a big deal. And we are working through Master Life together, which any church leaders out there, we 1,000% recommend Master Life. We don't sponsor them. We don't know it, like they're not a part of Fellowship Church, but they have written some incredible material about like how to study the Bible. And it's been really sweet to do kind of in community. And so, we do that. We offer that as an option. Get involved in this Bible study class, get involved in our Bible study that's, twice a month. And then kind of sharing the vision of, hey, this is what's happening. This is what you get to be a part of. And this is kind of what the Lord is doing here. And like, you get to play this piece in it. And so trying to be very intentional with our time that we have. And when my volunteers walk in, I'm like, oh my gosh, how are you doing? How is your kid who just started kindergarten? How's your granddaughter doing? All of those things. Like, I keep pretty, decent track of those things, because yes, I'm in production, but we are in pastoral roles, as people who are on staff. And so that is like, we are ministering to them. And that's part of the tricky part about being on production. It's a skilled set, right? Like, I have a set of skills that got me this job, but I also need to be pastoral, and I also need to be ministering to these volunteers that serve under me every week.
Yeah.
Toby, we should have a Church Gear book list. Like, we should talk to all of our podcast guests, all of our production friends, and have like, here's the recommended list from Church Gear, the books to read. Because that's a great one. We could put that on there.
I love it.
Secondly, I love the idea of the lyrics operators meeting the choir, because it's like your guardian angel you never knew,
Yep. And Alexa, I want to highlight just a funny thing that we all as men we deal with. For those of us men,
Toby, this is not that meeting. You have your doctor appointment next week.
You really cracked yourself up with that one, didn't you?
It's the end of the day.
So for all of us married men, we kind of know that.
It's getting worse.
Can you calm down? Gosh,
I have to put a filter on him.
We come home from hanging out with our buds, and then our wives ask us, like, how's Steve doing? How's Tim? And we're like, I don't know. They're like, what? Like, didn't you ask them about their life? Like, no, why would we? But Alexa, women are so good at just the check-ins and the details of life and remembering things. And so I also want to encourage churches to get women onto your production team because they have that natural connection, that human element that us men struggle with. And the teams need that. And so, do the other staff members kind of have you help them to highlight that for the rest of the team since that comes more natural to you?
Yeah, I think that that's a big piece. We used to have what we called a volunteer coordinator, and her entire job was to just kind of handle volunteers. She would do little things like, not little, it's actually very important, like make sure background checks were up to date. She would make sure that like people were responding to their planning center requests. I would schedule them, but then the volunteer coordinator is kind of like checking up and making sure that they're good. But she would also handle things like, oh, so-and-so is in the hospital. Can we make sure that we send flowers or that we make a hospital visit and help coordinate, hey, who's going to go? I think honestly, that would be a great volunteer position. Even as I'm saying it out loud, I'm like, wow, let me get a volunteer coordinator. Like that is such a great, like, hey, somebody own this and somebody make sure that they're kind of keeping track of everybody.
Yeah.
I definitely, there's another girl on staff, in the production kind of, she's more like on the video side, but just kind of both her and I helping keep track of, hey, it's so-and-so's birthday, even those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Has been really, really helpful.
I remember Will Brown telling me they run a background check every fall. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, okay, so I just can't, if I get in trouble in the spring, I got a good runway before they're going to find out.
Exactly.
I haven't gotten binged on the background check yet. But it's getting ready to roll soon.
And Alexa, I feel like one of the most common statements we've ever heard from our guests on the podcast is feed your volunteers. Like, how important is it? Just like they're like plants, you got to feed and water them.
Yeah, absolutely. We set out hospitality every Sunday. So if you're a volunteer, when you walk in and you like use our iPad to sign in and get your wristband, like there's already snacks out and there are drinks out and there's coffee out. And so that comes out of our budget every year that we're feeding volunteers on Sunday. Also, we're asking volunteers to be here at 7:00 and we usually get done 12:30, 1:00. Like that's a long day.
Yeah.
So we have snacks out. We do it about once a quarter. It kind of depends on the season. But we actually just hosted it at our house. Daniel and I, a barbecue for all of our production volunteers.
Nice.
And so there was I didn't have a work project for them. I didn't have anything for them to do. We just cooked and set out tables and chairs and yard games and said like, hey, bring your family and come hang out, for a couple hours on a Saturday afternoon. And it was so fun and so sweet. To get to see people like outside of like the four walls of the church, but also to see people kind of interacting with each other, who maybe wouldn't normally get to. And so we do that. And then about once a year, we try pretty hard to get all of our campuses, production volunteers together again, in hopes of not a project. Cause we do that pretty often. Hey, we're going to do a work day. Come on up. We'll feed you and we're going to knock out this thing. But get everybody together and just share some vision of, hey, look what's happening at Fellowship Church. Like you play a part in that. We're so honored that you're with us. We couldn't do this without you. And have some food and some dessert and mingle and get to know some other people, who are also in your field at a different campus.
Yeah.
And so those things are really special and really sweet.
I will
to our
say,
team.
as a Fed volunteer at church camp, every year at church camp, when I walk into the leader lounge and there's liquid IVs and snacks and
Yeah.
drinks and stuff, like that gets you through that weekend. And so I know not every church has budget for it, but if you've ever wondered if it's meaningful, it's impactful.
Yeah.
There was one
And I would
church.
encourage you, like, if you don't have budget for it, like, there's nothing wrong with, hey, grocery store, like, would you be willing to sponsor us? You know, even $100, like that'll go far. Like, don't be afraid to ask for some
Local coffee
sponsorship.
shop.
Yeah.
Oh, that's actually a really fun idea. Like, could you get the local coffee shop to sponsor your volunteer teams, and in exchange, that's like, this is Fellowship's coffee or whatever, you know, like that.
Totally.
I like that idea.
Yeah. And just, you know, I'm going to harp on this for our listeners that we bring Alexa on because we're highlighting how much better a production team can be when it's balanced with men and women. I think we all just have this sort of assumption that the production team is dudes. They wear black shirts and they're socially awkward.
And they have beards.
And they have beards.
They
and they
smoke
wear
cigars.
hats, and they drink bourbon.
Yep.
But, you know, there is so much more that women can bring to balance out your team, to fill it out, to create connection and care. And that's all those wonderful things, you know, and which is why God created men and women. Blake.
That joke you made earlier, Toby, about guys not asking details. I sent a reel to my wife because I'm that same way.
Yeah.
It's this guy hanging out with his wife, and he goes, "Yeah, Bill got divorced." And she's like, "What happened?" And he's like, "Well, I don't know." She's like, "What was the cause?" He's like, "I'm not sure." And she's like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "We were just playing golf. I don't know. He told me and we moved on."
I've seen that one. I love it.
It's perfect.
There's so many of those, and it's sad, but it's true.
Yeah. So guys out there, check on your boys and have girls on the production team because they actually know how to care.
And I saw this other one yesterday. We're getting a little off topic, but I thought it was pretty funny. Men get together and make fun of each other to grow closer, but they don't mean it. And women get together and
be careful.
compliment one another, but they don't mean it.
That's Alexa. What do you think? Do you think I can confirm on the guy part that is true? We all get together and you're just mean to your boys, but you don't mean it. Do you think that's true on the girl side?
No, I hope not.
The problem is
just
Alexa's too
destroyed
nice.
Alexa's
She really
bubble.
means it when she compliments all her friends.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Listen, I'm an Enneagram 8. You said you were 7 earlier. I'm an 8. Like,
Blake's
I mean
an
what
8.
I say.
That's true.
Now, that's a fun would you rather. Would you rather have insults that aren't true or compliments that aren't true?
Ooh, there you go.
I'll take the insults.
Yeah, me too.
Insults.
I'm too scared of the truth, Blake.
Yes.
As an Enneagram 7, I'm desperately afraid of the truth.
You're always running away from something, which is the next question.
That's
so how
right.
about you run towards it?
All right. So we have recruited our team. We have aligned their skill sets. We have invested in them as human beings. Now it's time to actually talk about the skills. How do you actually develop the skills of production in your people?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I think you gotta have to look at each position and say, like, what are the important skills here that, like, I need you to know? I think specifically for audio, because that's kind of where I spend a lot of my time. The very first Sunday somebody's with me, like, they are pressing the buttons and I'm saying, like, push this. Okay. And now we're going to do this. And now we're going to move our hand over here. And I always prep my team. Hey, y'all, like I sent out a text early. Hey, y'all, I have a brand new audio volunteer today. Like, please be patient with us. Remember to say your name and what you need and make sure you hear confirmation from us. And just try to prep them on the front end, because otherwise if they're not moving at the pace that they're used to me moving at, which is fast. And, you know, I can listen to 3 or 4 people ask for something at the same time, like that. And that's a learned skill, right? My brand new, has never been behind an audio console volunteer. That'll freak them out. And so I get them back there with me, pushing buttons, doing what they, even if it is follow the leader style. Coming from that teacher background, right? I do, we do, you do. So I'm going to do it, and then we're going to do it together. And then I want you to do it while I'm standing here with you. It's kind of the model that we have kind of adopted. And that sounds super teachery because I'm a teacher. And so I do that a lot. This past weekend, waves failed on me literally as service started at the monitor desk. And so everybody lost literally everything other than talkbacks. And my volunteer goes, Alexa. And I like swoop in. And I wasn't far, but I, run over and we take insert B off. And he's like, I'm so glad you're here. I don't teach them how to manage waves, right? Like, he works for a hospital. He's an incredibly smart dude. He can make an adjustment to any mix. waves failed. Like that's a 1 in 1,000, right? And so like I'm there for the 1 in 1,000.
Alexa, do
But
your volunteers,
he knows how to handle everything else.
when they send in a request, do they ever say like, Alexa, please give me more?
So when I was on tour, all the 50-year-old men thought that was hysterical.
I'm sorry, but I think it's funny too.
Blake, you have the same humor level as a 50-year-old man.
I'll take
Congratulations.
it. I'll
English
take
is
it.
not your second language. You're terrible at math.
And I'm old and gonna die soon.
That's funny.
And
Yeah, so you kind of do that. I do, we do, you do approach. And then I think, for cameras, right? Like we're going to show you how it works. I'm going to put you on a low risk camera to start, right? I'm not going to put you on my tight shot for the message. You're going to go out on, 3, which is a big, room shot, proscenium shot. I'm going to put you on 4, which is just kind of a sparkle shot. I'm not going to put you on handheld. That's crazy. Like I'm going to give you a low risk opportunity. Audio doesn't really have low risk, right? Like it's all or nothing. So I'm going to stand right next to you the whole time. In the control room, right? I'm going to oftentimes have you shadow somebody first, just so you can kind of understand what the role even looks like. And then, the next week, maybe we'll put you on for worship, but not for the message. And so we kind of split those things up, just in an effort to kind of ease you into it, and have somebody with you to kind of help as things go.
do you guys have any specific like training manuals or videos that you use?
Yeah, we're so for audio, I do use the MXU platform. I think it was tricky when I had a PM1D. There were not a lot of resources for the PM1D. I know. So I used the Mix, which is our youth ministry, to train a ton of people on the PM1D because it was low risk, right? Students are way more forgiving. And that's no shade to my weekend team. They just are. It's way lower risk. And so I train a lot of people that way. Now that we have a 338, there are a lot more resources. So I use MXU. And at our campuses, our 2 smaller campuses have wings, and there's a ton of resources. So I send YouTube videos, I send MXU videos to all their engineers, and all my campuses are run by volunteers. And so there's a lot of training and a lot of things from my end that kind of come down. And then we try to gather people, once a quarter or so, and hey, here's some new things we learned. Hey, we'll even have PMs ask us hey, can you come out for a day on a Tuesday night or on a Thursday night and do a little bit of training? We have these few new people who are interested. And absolutely, I will drive out to your campus and do a training if you've got people.
That's awesome. Think back to Blake, you were born in 93?
Yep.
Yeah, that's basically
1893.
That's when I started in production. There was no YouTube. There was no training videos. There was no MXU. I got terrible training by a grouchy old man on this mixer.
Mixed with your faders, like he told you.
Yes, exactly. No, mixed with the gain knob.
Mixed with your gators.
Oh,
yeah, that's what he told me.
That's what a
visceral reaction.
A fader and a gain knob is a gator.
Yeah, but thankfully, Alexa, that man ended up going to prison many years later. So justice was served.
What did he go to?
We're not going to talk about it.
This was a bad man.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
But I love the resources that exist these days. Like, you don't have to hand a manual for a Behringer wing to somebody and say, read the manual. Like, here's a curated playlist of YouTube videos, walking you through everything. Like, all these training videos exist online. And if they don't, it's pretty easy. You are in the production team. Produce a little video about it.
Yeah, watch all the wing videos, then watch Lee and Jake fight about it, and then go back and decide for yourself.
And then watch Jake confess that he was wrong.
On our podcast.
Yeah.
It's a good moment. Breaking news.
All right, Alexa. So we've recruited, we've aligned, we've invested, we have skill built. And finally, how do you empower your volunteers so that they can run without you and you can move on to the next volunteer? What does that look like for you guys to actually give them the opportunity to then run on their own?
Yeah, I would say honestly here, it's pretty quick. I'm going to throw you in pretty fast. Trial by fire is real. and I need to know, can you kind of handle the level of pressure that you're going to get?
Mm-hmm.
And do you know, like, I'm never more than 20 steps away. And so kind of empowering these volunteers to say, like, okay, like, you got it. I'm right here. You're good. And, you know, I still have a couple that are not super, like, competent, and I'm sitting next to them most of the morning. Once we get into service, they're usually pretty good. But there are a couple that I still sit next to. There's a couple that if I took a Sunday off, they would be fine. You know, barring that, like, literally waves didn't crush or something, you know, absolutely crazy, they would be fine. So I think I'm giving you all the resources that I have. You can learn as much or as little as you want. You can understand why you're doing what you're doing, or you can just push the button. And I'm kind of okay with either. And I'm always going to tell you, like, this is why we're doing what we're doing. But if you just want to push the button, that's cool. Like, we can do that too. Again, I want this experience to be fun for them. And so I pretty quickly am going to throw somebody in and say, okay, like, you got it. You're going to be great. And if they have a question, I'm right there. And there's no harm in asking. And I'm pretty clear with them. Like, I will step in, you know, if something starts to go wrong, or if they're fielding too many, you know, requests at once, like, I will step in. And, you know, they hear my voice on the talkback, and everybody kind of remembers that the volunteer.
Yeah.
Or I'll shoot off a text and I say, hey, remember, it's a volunteer back here. Like, you need to help us out. And do your part.
Toby, you know who Alexa is?
Yes.
Toby, or Alexa is that parent that the moment that they got their permit, it was straight to the interstate. They didn't let them drive home. They didn't take them on a country back road or parking lot. That was what my mom did to my sister. Just went straight to the interstate at 15 with her permit.
Throw you in the deep end of the pool.
Yeah.
That's right.
Trial by fire.
And Alexa, I assume you have, and I'm sure there's more than just these two different types of people, but some people are like, hey, I'll run the camera. I'll run it forever. Like, that's fine. I'm just here to serve. And other people are like, okay, I'll do this for today, but, like, what's next? And they show the promise, and you've got to give them new opportunities to level up and grow in it.
Yeah. And I think for us, it kind of depends on what area they're in. You know, we have a couple of people right now who are interns who started just on, you know, a prompter machine. And they kind of, over time, they showed, like, a little bit more interest in what was happening, or why we were doing what we were doing. So they would come up for the mix. Again, I use the mix as kind of our training ground. Not that it's any less excellent, because excellence is an expectation. That doesn't change for the mix. But it's just a little bit easier. And the stakes are a little bit lower. And so I use the mix often, our youth ministry, as a training ground. I will bring people in. Hey, you know, the mix wants to do a new song this week. Let's build this ProPresenter package. Will you come up on Tuesday, and will you help us do that? And I will use that as an opportunity for you to understand ProPresenter a little bit more. I will bring you up on a Sunday afternoon. Like, hey, will you stay after church, and will you help me rebuild the stage? Will you help me rebuild the drum kit? Will you help me solder these cables? And I also have a ton of weekday volunteers. We bring up students. We bring up all kinds of people during the week to try to help keep them going, to feel where their space is. Are you going to be a good fit for an intern one day? Would you be a good control room lead? Would you be a good producer? I'm always trying to kind of see, where can we put you next? And I have some people that we start to show them other things, and they're like, I'm good. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
That's fine. But I want you to know that opportunity is available to you. If you want that.
Love it. All right, Blake, we're always looking for a disaster story. There's a really good disaster story in the book where we talk about where Jack is a goldfish murderer, but I don't want to give away the story. So, Alexa, do you have another disaster story in relation to volunteers at church, potentially?
Yeah. I kind of alluded to it earlier. This last weekend, I, for a long time, did not put waves at monitors. I had it. We weren't really using it. I was a little bit scared of it. If I'm going to be really honest, like, I'm a guerrilla audio engineer at heart. Let's get it on. Let's get it working. Let's get the PA in the air. Like, I came from the festival world. I don't really care what the snare sounds like. Sorry, I just don't. Like, it doesn't matter
That's
to me.
blasphemy.
Yeah, like, is it on? Is it working? Cool. But our MD asked, 6 or 8 weeks ago, like, hey, can we get waves going? Like, I'd really love to like dial in monitors a little bit more. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. We can do it. So we did. We'd been fine. We'd been so fine. And we've had a couple other problems with our 338 monitors. And so we went through a whole run through. And then everybody walks on stage and they start yelling in their talkbacks, like, Alexa, we can't hear. Alexa, Alexa, Alexa. And I was at the printer, like I was around the corner, and I hear them, and because I can hear them all the time. And I remember thinking, that's so, like, they never talk to me like that panicked at the beginning of service. And all of them. Okay. So I like hurry up, and they're like, we literally can't hear anything. We are in the first song. They can't hear anything. They only have talkbacks. And it takes me a second, and I'm like, Waves is done. Sure enough, it's like disconnected itself essentially. And so talkbacks are one of the only things that don't get processed through Waves. So I quick step in and I take off insert B, and they can hear. We run a couple of other tests. I restart Waves. I try to insert B, and it doesn't work. I'm like, all right, I'm not, like, it's not worth compromising the experience. Like, I need people to kind of keep going. We're too far into this. So my sweet volunteer, I say, hey, you can't run scenes. You got to stay right here. You're going to have to adjust every song. Best of luck. So I stay pretty close to him. And I tell the team pretty fast. I have a button that I can talk to everybody, and I have a button that I can talk to just the band. So I key up band and I say, like, hey guys, like, Waves crashed. It's going to sound funny in your ears, and you're going to need adjustments because stuff isn't getting compressed the same way. So, like, I'm here, we're listening, and we're ready to, like, take your requests kind of as you need them, but know that we're kind of in, limp by mode. And so my sweet volunteer does so good keeping up. And he, like, every once in a while look at me and say, like, I don't know what that means. Like, I don't know what they're asking for. And I can explain that to him. We get through, our worship leader comes back and he's like, what the heck happened? I explain it to him. He's like, that was wild. Like, that was actually wild. I was like, yeah. And he goes, I basically didn't have any ears in the whole time. Totally fine. He was good. But we were able to have a conversation then, once we got into the message, and I said, this kind of stuff happens. Technology fails. Volunteer, awesome job at, like, being able to keep up quickly with all the requests. Awesome job at not trying to fix something that you didn't know how to fix and making it a bigger problem. And he was like, I'm just so glad you were here. I'm like, that's why I'm here. That's why I have a job. That's, those kinds of things. And so, great work. We restarted everything, during the break, between our experiences, and it worked fine for the second experience, which was so weird.
Yeah.
But I think that there's a lot of learning that can happen. And so him and I we talked through quite a bit of, like, kind of where Waves pulls off in the chain, and why we had to kind of take it out so that they could hear things, why they could hear some inputs, but not other inputs. So that was just last weekend.
Oh man. I think the moral of the story here is that the MD screwed up because he's the one who told you to put Waves in. Right, Mike?
Honestly.
I think the person who screwed up was at the beginning of this story. Toby decided to take a big gerbil pull off of his bottle, and you weren't far enough away from the mic. You just hear, I mean, yeah, it sounded like a gerbil going to town on his water tank.
Our editor can pull that out.
Nope, she's not going to edit that. I got to make sure you're shamed. There are two things I've had in my head this whole time that we got to cut, but that's not one of them.
No, all right, fine.
Alexa, I do have a question for you though. A mean question because I'm so curious. Wow. You said that all the ministries go out in the five golden minutes, and they're not trying to recruit for themselves. They're trying to recruit for everybody. Do you think any particular ministry might be trying to recruit hard for themselves, or do you think everybody plays really fair there on sorting people based on interest and not just they're all shilling for theirs?
I think, honestly, I think FC Kids probably, recruits the most probably for them.
Yep.
But they will every once in a while send me like, hey, they're super, they're in the tech field.
This person punched
and
a
they've
child.
already served with us. Yeah. And they've already served with us for a few weeks and they weren't a good fit. Like, here, why don't you take them?
Here's our cast-offs. They are not fit for children, but production.
I mean, this doesn't surprise me because right now it's July. I would assume, well, that we're recording this in July. Everyone's church is talking about serving in July.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they showed the empty positions on the screen last week. And it was like, 5 here, 7 there, 2 there. Production wasn't even listed. So either it was the ultimate, like they left them out or they're just fully good.
Well, it helps to be in Nashville. There's a lot of production people in Nashville.
I'm hoping and believing they were just fine. But then the parking team and the kids ministry both had 40 open spots. I was like, I've never seen a parking attendant person here a day in my life. Why do we have 40 spots for parking? We're not doing valet. That's why I had to ask, though, if anyone was shilling for themselves.
All right, Blake, take away the tech takeaway.
All right, Alexa. You are a veteran of the pod. We end on a tech takeaway for our episodes. If it's volunteer focused, bonus points. But what would you say to a room full of production people about their volunteers? I know we've asked you for so much already, but I think the cherry on this shake is coming.
Yeah, I think volunteers drive your ministry, right? Like you are there because you're production minded. But I also think that volunteers, bring some life to your ministry. And so I would say invest in them, invest in your volunteers in any way that you can, whether that's note cards, whether that is, that we're feeding them, whether that is that you're just texting them throughout the week, that you're investing in your volunteers and you're caring for them. But you're also empowering them. You're empowering them that they have the space and they have the authority to say, hey, like, this isn't working well. Could we think of a new solution? Hey, this isn't, I'm having a hard time doing X, Y, or Z. Okay, let's dream up a solution that they're empowered to, have some ownership into the place that they serve, because that'll get them to stay. And I would keep them in community, right? Get them plugged in, do a Bible study, create a text chain, like something, sometimes those things can get out of control, but like making space for community is going to get people to stay. And at the end of the day, like we're the church and we are investing in people and we're in the people business. I just get to do that through production and I get to do that through lyrics and I get to do that through the work that we do every day. But you're still you're in the business of people.
Toby, I have the title for your next book.
Okay.
The Extrovert's Guide to Production.
There you go.
Because it sounds like so much of production is still people skills.
Yep.
Although you're not an extrovert, so we might have to get a ghostwriter as an extrovert.
My daughter says I test at 70% extroverted, 30% intro.
I think you're an extrovert that hates people because you're really good at being extroverted, but then you'll be at these conferences and you're like, I got to go to sleep.
It's the Enneagram 7 in me. I love people, but after a couple minutes, I'm like, all right, who's next? It's kind of my pros and cons.
So maybe you won't write the Extrovert's Guide to Production, but you did write...
You put me on the spot, so I forgot the name of my book.
Isn't this a podcast series for your book?
Spaces, Modern Production. And really taking concepts from churches like Fellowship Church and Elevation and Prestonwood and all these great churches, including small and medium-sized churches, and the stories behind the scenes, the production, how they're doing what they do on Sunday mornings, and a lot of the funny mishaps, and then applying them to simple, practical principles that you can apply at church of any size.
Yes, Toby, that was my best segue of my entire life, and you squandered it. Alexa, is there anything you would like to plug, anywhere you'd want to point people towards? We really appreciate you joining us for a third hour of insanity on the podcast. No,
I'm good. I don't have anything.
Alexa's like, my volunteer team is stocked.
Oh, wait, I do have. So it's actually not a plug for me. It's a plug for Daniel.
Okay.
Thought Leaders is a great space. If you are in, church production, and you're looking for some community with other church production people, to join a thought leader cohort, he has tried to get me to start one for women. We'll see. Let me know if you're interested. We can we can think about it.
Yeah. Love it.
There's tons of girls in production that we, have had on the podcast now. And I have joked, Alexa, it's almost the end of the podcast, time for nonsense. I've joked we should have a podcast where it's like a women's roundtable and they're like all talking about production, like being in production as women, all that stuff. And me and Toby are on the sides and we're like saying little questions or saying like, y'all should talk about this. And it just cuts away from us. They ignore us the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Wait, that would be so fun.
Like we're like man questioning on the side and it just, they never listen the entire time. And it just goes right back to their roundtable.
Yep.
That'd be really fun.
Sounds like our wives.
Well,
they never listen to us because they're smarter.
Like you said, you have a wife. I have a woman I pay to come to company events with me so that I can pretend like I have a wife. Alexa, thank you so much for joining us again for a third episode of Nonsense, A Glutton for Punishment. We'll tag you when this episode comes out.
Cool.
All right. See you.
Sounds good. Thank you.
And now it's time for a Church Tech Confessional, where church production people confess the worst thing they've ever done in church production. Here's one now.
One of the craziest things that happened in my church was our worship director, middle of service, takes his 9-volt battery out of his guitar, throws it in his pocket, and then halfway through the service, he starts dancing on stage for some reason, runs back all the way to the sound booth by me and goes, I think I burned a hole in my leg. I'm like, how? He goes, I put this battery in there and I had change. And then he shows me later, I go, yeah, you got a big burn on your leg. It's the shape of a 9-volt battery. So that's the craziest thing that's happened in my church right now.
Hey, do you have your own Church Tech Confessional that's, 45 seconds to 2 minutes? Send it to blake@churchgear.com, and you might just hear it on the podcast.
Thanks for hanging out with us. We hope to see you back next week for more absurd stories, tech takeaways, and overall buffoonery here at the Church Gear Studios.
All right, Blake. So if English is not your first language, what is your first language?
Idiot.
I mean, you are technically a moron, as we said.
That one was too good.
And I'm wondering,
should make shirts.
do people know that you are my volunteer, that I got you in the Golden Five after church, and you do this podcast just because it's fun and rewarding.
You said, hey, do you want to sit on this podcast mic until you die? And I said, yes, I do. Yes, I do.
And if you're looking for volunteers at your church, I would suggest you pick up a copy of my book. I mean, because I wrote it, but also has really helpful tips on how to recruit, how to develop, how to train an amazing volunteer team. And I really feel like the production ministry, the volunteer team, could be the envy of all the rest of the ministries, because we have the coolest toys and we get to do the funnest work.
Tech, yeah. And if you've already got a volunteer team that's full and you don't need to recruit, read this book with your volunteer team and they can be baptized by fire in production.
Yes, helping people not be technically morons.